Okay, this problem is a pretty good problem. It gives us a chance to interpret pension data. And they tell us that this company's pension expense includes a service cost of $11 million. So that's the $11 million, that's the current service cost. They began the year with a pension liability of $30 million, underfunded, okay? So we have that, and they say, keeping these facts constant, what happens if each of these three different things happens? Well, the first one tells us that the interest cost is 7, okay? So we know that the interest cost is 7, so let's jot that down. That's the interest. I'm sorry, I'm a fool. Interest is 7, okay? The expected return on assets is 5. So the return is 5. And the amortization of net loss is 2. So let's go and put these pieces in so we can make some sense out of them. Well, remember, pension expense is a current service cost plus interest, okay, plus or minus any unamortized gains or losses, plus or minus any amortized prior service cost, plus or minus any amortized gain. So let's go through and fill in these pieces. So our obligation has gone up by our interest and our service cost. Okay, so the PBO has increased by 7. That's the interest, plus 11, current service cost. So our obligation, our liability has gone up 18. Now let's see what else do they tell us. The expected return on assets was 5, so that reduces the amount, okay, but that's part of our pension expense. So we have the expected return of 5, and we have an amortization of net loss, so we're using up our net loss on the assets of 2. So our pension expense has to be our expected return plus the expense. So we had 18 and 2 minus 5, 15, okay? So let's take a look at the next one. Everything's the same, but now they tell us that instead of having a loss, let me push this up here, instead of having a loss, we have a gain. Okay, so the service cost, the PBO still goes up by the service cost plus the current interest cost. So the PBO still goes up by 18. We have a net gain, so that's 2. We have the expected return on the plan assets of 5, and our pension expense is the plug, 11. In this case, the pension expense here is exactly the current service cost. And the last one they tell us is we have expected return of 5, we still have that. We have the net loss of 2, but we have the amortization of prior service cost. So that increases our overall cost, okay? And we have to take a look at that and put that into, so let's take a look. Our pension expense is still 18, the 11 plus 7. The plan assets are 5, that's the expected return, and we're not told anything different. Our PBO went up by 18, we figured that out earlier. Our prior service cost is 3, that's given to us. And we have the amortization of net loss of 2. So it's really just a matter of interpreting the plan and making sure we know what we're talking about, okay? And so this just takes us through gains, losses, and amortization of prior service expense. Keep in mind the basic rules of pension expense. current service cost plus the return, plus the interest rather, plus or minus any return, plus or minus any unamortized gain or loss, plus or minus any prior service cost.